AP 120, Chapter 4, Topics, Enzymes and Metabolic Reactions. So, metabolism, as we learned in Chapter 1, is all chemical reactions that use or produce energy. And obviously, we are talking about humans when we talk about metabolism. So, what are some general categories of chemical reactions that occur in humans? What are things that cells or the body does? Give you a second to think about that. All right, some things the body does includes break down nutrients, so digestion, that's part of our metabolism. ATP synthesis, making the energy, obviously. Protein synthesis, that's translation, transcription, DNA replication, lipid synthesis. So all this production of new resources for the cells would also fall under metabolism. So enzymes. Enzymes are proteins. And enzymes are also catalysts, and as catalysts, they speed up chemical reactions. And this is critical because most chemical reactions do not occur fast enough to be relevant for living things. So, enzyme has a particular shape or conformation, and that includes a space that is called the active site. The active site is where the substrate will bind to the enzyme, and it's only the kind of substrate that can fit that active site that will bind. Nothing else is going to work. So here's another example. Here's an enzyme with its substrate, and then after the chemical reaction occurs, the enzyme releases the two products. So one substrate, two products. So is this a synthesis, decomposition, or exchange reaction? It is a decomposition reaction. Something big got broken down into smaller things. All right, enzymes as catalysts do what all catalysts do, and that's lower the activation energy. And that's the energy needed to go from being reactants to become products. And without a enzyme or catalyst present, it may take years, centuries for the chemical reaction to occur. But with the presence of enzymes, that can be reduced down to milliseconds so that these chemical reactions occur at the speed of light. The other nice thing is that enzymes, as a catalyst, and as all catalysts do, they are not used up by the reaction. So they're present at the beginning and they are present at the end and can act again and again and again. And again, they do this via specificity. They have an active site that is specific for a specific substrate or substrates, and that is it. And enzymes only help with one chemical reaction, so they only do one thing. They're like little robots with one job and only one job. And this specificity is often called the lock and key mechanism, because as a key has a certain shape to fit a specific lock, the substrates have a certain shape that fit the shape of the active site in the enzyme. Substrates bind, same as turning a key in the lock. And this gives you the enzyme substrate complex, and then the products are released, or the door becomes unlocked. And again, the enzyme is not altered. The enzyme is ready to act again. So this example, two substrates come in, one product comes out, is a synthesis, decomposition, or exchange. That's right, it is synthesis this time. Small things becoming something bigger. All right, metabolism, again, all chemical reactions that use or produce energy. There are two categories of reactions that occur that are considered metabolic reactions. There's anabolism. Anabolism is the synthesizing larger molecules from smaller ones. Synthesizing. So it's basically a type of synthesis reaction. And then catabolism is the decomposition of larger molecules into smaller, breaking big things down to little ones. So it's a category of subcategory of decomposition. And of course, since these are metabolic reactions, energy is going to be involved. So here is my little attempt at showing how we have a big box with all chemical reactions that occur, and then a smaller box within that which is metabolism. So the metabolic chemical reactions are a subcategory of all possible chemical reactions. And so the synthesis reactions include all chemical reactions, and a subcategory of synthesis is the anabolism. So anabolism is metabolic chemical reactions involved in synthesis. And then decomposition is a big category within all chemical reactions. Catabolism is a subcategory of decomposition. So catabolism is metabolic reactions that cause things to decompose. So that's how these terms fit together. All right, so anabolism, making larger things from smaller ones. It's going to require energy. Energy is needed to have this occur. It is very important for growth of cells, for repairing damage to the body, to cells. And it's referred to as a dehydration reaction because water is a product. So what happens is we have one substrate with an OH group, another substrate with an H, and then after anabolism, you get AOB. They're now combined to form this bigger molecule, and water, OH plus H, H2O, is also produced as a product. And for this to occur, ATP is expended, energy used, ATP becomes ADP, and of course we have to have our friendly enzyme present to make sure things occur quickly enough. And it turns out often these are reversible reactions, so don't be surprised if you see it going in the opposite direction, which technically is what catabolism is. All right, catabolism, decomposing larger molecules into smaller. Catabolism is going to release energy. Energy is produced. ATP gets turned into ATP. Catabolism is considered a hydrolysis reaction because water, H2O, is a substrate that gets broken. So water is lysed, hydrolysis. And examples of when catabolism occurs includes the digestion of nutrients into smaller chemicals. Again, often reversible. So catabolism cuts up and anabolism adds together. So a little practice. Here we have two monosaccharides becoming a disaccharide and water. So what are the products? What are the substrates? Is this catabolism or anabolism? Is it hydrolysis or dehydration? And does it use or produce ATP? Give you a moment to think about that. Sure, I'll pause the video if you need more time. Well, it turns out that these are the substrates, the two monosaccharides. These are the products, the disaccharide and water. Again, the arrow points to the products. The arrow points to the products. The arrow points to the products. This is anabolism. We're adding together. The two smaller things become something bigger. It is dehydration because water is removed from the substrates. Dehydration, water is removed. And it uses energy. ATP gets broken down into ADP. All right, here's another example. We have a triglyceride molecule and water, and it becomes glycerol and 3 fatty acid molecules. So again, catabolism or anabolism, hydrolysis or dehydration, products, what are they? Substrates, what are they? And does it use or produce ATP? Again, feel free to pause if you need a little time to think about the answers to this question. All right, so the substrates are the fat molecule and water. The products is glycerol and the 3 fatty acid molecules. Again, the arrow points to the products. This is catabolism. We're taking a big thing and breaking it up into smaller pieces. It's also hydrolysis because we're starting with water. Water is a substrate that gets broken up and is attached to the different products. So water gets broken up, hydrolysis. Substrate gets broken up. This will produce energy, produce ATP. ADP will turn into ATP. Good old catabolism. And then here's the third example. We have a dipeptide molecule. It's 2 amino acids bound together, plus water. yielding two separate amino acids. Is it catabolism or anabolism, hydrolysis or dehydration? Products, what are they? Substrates, what are they? Does it use or produce ATP? Pause for a moment. Feel free to pause the video. All right, it turns out that the substrate is the dipeptide molecule. It is the two new amino acids is the product. Substrate is also water. So the product is the two amino acids. Again, the arrow points to the product. Since we're cutting something bigger up into smaller pieces, it is catabolism. It's hydrolysis because water gets broken up between the products, produces ATP because catabolic reactions produce energy. All right. Now, turns out that often we have to take a starting material and have it undergo a lot of chemical reactions before it becomes the product that we desire. And this sequence of reactions is called a metabolic pathway, and all the enzymes that are involved are very important to get to the finished product. Sort of think of it as assembling a bicycle. You got to put all the parts together in some order before you get the final product. So substrate 1 is what we start with. Enzyme A will turn it into substrate 2. Substrate 2 is a substrate for enzyme B that becomes substrate 3. Substrate 3 is a substrate for enzyme C, which becomes substrate 4. Substrate 4 becomes enzyme, with the help of enzyme D, becomes the finished product. So there's a chain of reactions occurring to get to the finished product. Now, usually in these metabolic pathways, what is considered the rate limiting step is the very first step. So basically, what is controlled in this pathway is the first reaction. So if there's plenty of product present and no more product is needed, then that product will act as an inhibitor and will stop the very first chemical reaction. So substrate 1 will not become substrate 2 because it's been prevented. And this helps to make sure the intermediates don't build up. Why waste the energy with all those intermediates if they're not needed? All right, Phenylketonuria, PKU, is a genetic disorder where an enzyme in one of the metabolic pathways in the human body is defective. And as a consequence, the amino acid phenylalanine builds up to toxic levels. And this is very bad. Basically, before people understood how it worked, people who had PKU would end up becoming severely intellectually disabled and would suffer some physical issues as well, such as rash outbreaks. And lucky for us, people were able to understand how PKU works. And so what they do is if some baby is tested for it, all babies are tested for it, and if they have it, then the babies are put on a very restrictive diet in order to prevent them from building up toxic levels of phenylalanine. So it is a chronic condition, but they can manage it and develop as expected. All right, cofactors and coenzymes. Some enzymes need another component to function properly, to be complete. So if you have a robot without its head, you need to put the head on the robot to get it active. Cofactors are inorganic, and they can even be ions. So for instance, iron is an inorganic cofactor for hemoglobin. Coenzymes are organic, so they have carbon and hydrogen in their structure. And for instance, they are often vitamins. So a lot of vitamins are needed to get enzymes to function properly. Enzymes can be denatured. You can treat them with heat, extreme pHs, chemicals, electricity, radiation, and this denaturing destroys their structure and makes them inactive, and this is a permanent effect. A denatured enzyme cannot ever function again. All right, and that is it for this part of chapter 4.